I was hitting the afternoon slump, so I slipped out of the office and grabbed 2 carnitas burritos from the food truck on the corner for a late lunch. On the way back, a woman on the sidewalk caught my eye. A mystic, maybe? She was dressed in a simple, flowing white linen tunic that had seen better days, sitting quietly on a small folding stool. A worn silk cloth, embroidered with what looked like sacred geometry, was spread out before her. She was genuinely beautiful. Her skin was pale and smooth like polished marble, and she had a serene, otherworldly quality that clashed with a noisy, chaotic city street around her. Scammers are really stepping up their game these days, I thought. Hiring models now? I couldn't help but stare. Suddenly, she looked up, her clear eyes locking directly onto mine. "Please, wait a moment." Her voice was like cool spring water, calm and clear. She rose and walked toward me, her movements graceful and light. "I see a powerful aura around you. You are a person of destiny. Allow me to offer you a reading." Her intense gaze made me uncomfortable. I waved a hand dismissively. "I'm not into that stuff." I clutched the bag with the burritos a little tighter and turned to leave. "Fate is preordained," she said softly, not trying to stop me. "It cannot be forced." For some reason, I stopped and looked back. "How much for a reading?" $200. I choked. "Are you kidding me? That's highway robbery." "Not interested, goodbye." That was more than my entire grocery bill for the week. I turned and walked away, for real this time. But then she spoke again, a hint of a smile in her voice. "Very well. Seeing as we have a connection. The food you're holding, that will suffice." She gestured to the bag in my hand. I froze. A burrito for a psychic reading? Didn't sound like a bad deal. Besides, I had bought an extra one. I pulled out a still warm burrito and handed it to her. She took it, but didn't eat, just held it as she began to theatrically press her fingertips together. A moment later, she opened her eyes and said something stunning. "You and I are bound by destiny. This meeting is the beginning of our journey in the material plane." I almost spit out my own spit. A total nut job. I muttered, "You're crazy," under my breath and walked off without looking back, trading a perfectly good burrito for a creepy pickup line. What a ripoff. That night, I got back to my apartment building after working late, exhausted. Just as I was about to head upstairs, a figure stepped out of the shadows in the lobby. It was her. Same white tunic, same serene, beautiful face. She was still holding the now-cold burrito, and she gave me a cryptic smile. My skin crawled. "How did you find me?" She held up the burrito. "The universe reveals its secrets to those who listen." I didn't have the energy for her cryptic nonsense. I sidestepped her and headed for the stairs. This woman was trouble, either a con artist or genuinely insane. I needed to get away from her. I took the stairs 2 at a time, desperate to get into my apartment and lock the door. But she followed, her voice trailing calmly behind me. "Wait, I see a shadow clinging to your brow. You are in danger of a painful accident tonight. Watch your step on your way up." I'd had enough. I spun around and glared at her. "If you don't stop following me, you're going to be the one having a painful accident right now." I tried to sound menacing, hoping to scare her off. "I'm a guy. You're a girl. Out here alone. Nobody would even notice." She just stared back, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes, and shook her head. Before I could finish my threat, my foot snagged on something, a loose bit of carpeting maybe. Whoa! I lost my balance completely and pitched forward, tumbling downstairs. My forehead connected solidly with the sharp edge of a concrete step. Instantly, a warm, sticky liquid trickled down my face. I sat there, stunned, sprawled on the landing, unable to process what had just happened. She walked over slowly and knelt beside me. She produced a clean, white handkerchief from her sleeve and began to gently dab the blood from my forehead. Her touch was soft, and her fingers were cool against my skin. I stared at her face, so close to mine, and only one thought echoed in my mind. Who the hell is she? She helped me back to my apartment. Having an ethereal mystic in my tiny, cluttered rental felt surreal. She cleaned and bandaged the cut on my forehead with a surprisingly professional touch. "My name is Serafina," she said by way of introduction, her tone matter of fact. "I come from a sanctuary. I'm here to resolve a karmic trial." I looked at her otherworldly face, thought about what had just happened on the stairs, and found myself about 70% convinced. Was this kind of thing actually real? "So, what now?" I asked, unsure of what to do next. She answered as if she'd read my mind. The energy in this apartment is stagnant. If I were to stay, I could cleanse it and improve your fortune. She surveyed my messy, bachelor pad disaster of a living room with a completely straight face. An idea sparked in my head. Let her stay? I sized her up. She was beautiful, but she looked like a strong gust of wind could knock her over. I was a grown man. What was there to be afraid of? Besides, the most valuable things I owned were my laptop and a half-empty fridge. A burglar would probably leave me a pity donation. Having a live-in psychic who could predict the future. It didn't sound like a bad deal. Hoping to press my advantage, I asked tentatively, so, can you tell me when I'm going to get rich? A sly glint appeared in her serene eyes as she smiled faintly. With me here, wealth is assured. Her words felt hypnotic. In a moment of weakness, I agreed. Okay, fine. You can stay for a bit. I'll take the couch. And just like that, I had a mystic for a roommate. I thought she'd just crash for a few days, but the woman showed no signs of leaving. She didn't have a job, never went out, and spent her days meditating on the balcony or chanting from an old, leather-bound book filled with symbols I didn't recognize. To her credit, she wasn't a freeloader. She took over all the housework, transforming my dump of an apartment into a clean, orderly space. Every day, I'd come home from work to a hot meal. The only problem was the food. It was bland, incredibly bland. We're talking kale salads, steamed tofu, and quinoa. I don't think I saw a single egg for 3 days. It was hardcore, macrobiotic vegan cuisine. After the third day, my taste buds were officially on strike. I finally broke. Serafina, High Priestess of Tofu, I'm begging you, I need meat. If I eat any more of this, I'm going to achieve enlightenment by starving to death. She was wiping down the counter. She looked up at me, her expression unreadable. A simple diet purifies the spirit and invites prosperity. Prosperity can't come if I'm already dead. I whined, giving her my best puppy dog eyes. She considered this for a moment, then nodded. Understood. The next day, I walked in the door and was hit by the glorious, unmistakable smell of roasting meat. I sprinted to the kitchen to find a beautiful pan of barbecue ribs bubbling on the stove. I was so moved I almost wept. I wanted to hug her and call my wife. Of course, I didn't dare. I devoured those ribs like a starved wolf. It was pure bliss. But my joy was short-lived. After that one glorious meal, our menu returned to its regularly scheduled programming of flavorless health food. When I protested again, she just repeated her line about purifying the spirit. I was starting to think she was doing it on purpose. One weekend, with nothing better to do, I begged her to teach me some of her mystic arts. I figured if I learned a trick or two, I could hold my own in a bar fight. She picked up a small, handcrafted ritual wand from the corner and lightly tapped me on the head with it. You are a creature of the material world. Your 7 chakras are hopelessly clogged. You are unteachable. Seeing my crestfallen face, she added, however, for physical fitness, it could be beneficial. Be ready tomorrow at 5 a.m. We will begin with sun salutations. I immediately abandoned my quest for spiritual power. Since she wouldn't teach me her ways, I decided to teach her mine, starting with my phone and laptop. She was a quick study, but she'd still spend ages staring at the DoorDash app. Her brow furrowed in concentration as she tried to decipher the labyrinth of BOGO deals and delivery fees, as if she were contemplating the mysteries of the universe. Watching her navigate the modern world with such serious confusion was both infuriating and adorable. Maybe having a mystic in the house wasn't so bad. At the very least, she was 1,000 times better than my ex-girlfriend, whose only skill was asking for money. 3. The days rolled on, and I got used to having a goddess in my apartment. She was quiet, always calm, but her presence brought a strange sense of peace to the place. I knew that with her here, everything felt safer. Although she constantly criticized me for being materialistic and having a cluttered aura, she'd always leave a light on for me in the living room when I worked late. She'd be sitting on the couch, waiting, sometimes reading, sometimes meditating with her eyes closed. When I'd open the door, she'd open her eyes, give me a simple glance, and then retreat to her room without a word. It was nothing, but it warmed my heart every time. I discovered she had a secret weakness: sugar. She cooked like a monk, but she was powerless against sweets. So, I made it a habit to stop on my way home and pick up a little treat for her. The first day, I brought her a caramel apple. She took it without expression, merely saying it was frivolous. But when I got up for a glass of water in the middle of the night, I saw her on the balcony, slowly, carefully licking the caramel off the apple in the moonlight. The second day, I brought a cupcake. She frowned at the colorful frosting. This much sugar clouds the mind. Then she took a small bite with a spoon, and her eyes fluttered shut in pleasure. The third day, it was boba tea. The fourth, cotton candy. I made it my mission to find new things for her to try, just to see her pretend to dislike it while her eyes betrayed her delight. It became the best part of my day. She'd always give me a cool, dismissive look, but the corners of her mouth would twitch upward. I knew she loved it. One evening, I brought home freshly baked creme brulee tarts. The golden, caramelized tops and creamy centers smell divine. Her eyes lit up for a fraction of a second before she regained her composure. More of this worldly nonsense. She picked one up and took a small bite. She ate it a little too quickly, and a tiny smear of custard was left at the corner of her mouth. It stood out against her pale skin. On pure impulse, I reached out and gently wiped it away with my thumb. My fingertip brushed against the soft, warm skin of her lips. We both froze. Time seemed to stop. The air, thick with the sweet smell of vanilla and an unspoken tension, suddenly felt electric. My heart hammered against my ribs, threatening to leap out of my chest. She recovered first, her clear eyes fixed on mine. They weren't cool and detached anymore. They held a new, predatory gleam. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a low whisper. "Leo Vance, are you playing with fire?" My face flushed crimson. I gotta take a shower. I bolted into the bathroom, locked the door, and sagged against it, panting. In the mirror, my reflection was as red as a tomato. That weekend, my sister Maya came over to raid my fridge. When she opened the door and saw Serafina in her white tunic, her jaw dropped. "Leo, where did you find a literal angel?" Maya grabbed Serafina's hands, examining her from every angle as if she were a museum piece. The two women, surprisingly, hit it off. Or rather, Maya interrogated Serafina relentlessly. "So, you're really a mystic? Can you fly? Can you cast spells? Your skin is flawless. What's your secret? What products do you use?" Serafina, for once, was patient, answering each question calmly. After dinner, Maya pulled me aside. "Dude, this girl is on another level. You have to lock that down," she whispered urgently. "The way she looks at you. You could start a forest fire with that heat. You need to make your move and bring that goddess down to earth." I swatted her on the back of the head. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm way out of my league." "Ugh, no backbone," she muttered, making a face at me. Her words, however teasing, planted a seed in my mind. Later that night, after Maya left, Serafina and I were sitting on the couch, watching some mind-numbing reality TV show. My thoughts were anywhere but on the screen. I snuck a glance at her out of the corner of my eye and found her already looking at me. Our eyes met. A jolt went through me, and my first instinct was to look away. But she didn't. Instead, a slow, faint, and utterly devastating smile spread across her lips. My heart skipped a beat. After that, the atmosphere between us became charged. The air in the apartment felt thick with pink, sugary fluff, so sweet it made my head spin. I couldn't look her in the eye anymore, but she seemed to delight in tormenting me, finding excuses to get closer. If we passed in the hallway, her fingertips would deliberately brush against my arm. If I was on the couch scrolling through my phone, she would silently sit next to me, so close I could smell the faint, clean scent of sandalwood that always clung to her. I felt like a mouse being toyed with by a very patient cat. One evening after work, I just kicked off my shoes when I heard Serafina call from the bathroom. "Leo, could you bring me a towel?" Her voice was muffled by the sound of the running shower. My heart did a flip-flop as a montage of inappropriate scenarios flashed through my mind. I found a clean towel and walked to the bathroom door, my hand hovering over the knob. Through the frosted glass, I could see the vague, elegant silhouette of her figure. I swallowed hard and knocked. "I'll just leave out here for you." "The door's unlocked," she called back. "Just hand it in. I can't reach." Taking a deep breath, I told myself to be a gentleman and stop thinking like a perv. I opened the door just a crack, wide enough for my arm, and pushed the towel through. Suddenly, a cool, soft hand shot out from the steam and clammed down on my wrist. Then, with surprising strength, she yanked. Whoa! I yelped as I was pulled stumbling into the bathroom. A wave of hot, fragrant steam hit my face. I squeezed my eyes shut, terrified to look, and yelled, "What are you doing? Let me go. We can't do this." I heard her laugh, a light, airy sound that tickled my eardrum. Temptation is a test of the spirit. Leo, how can you strengthen your resolve if you can't even bear to look at me? Her warm breath ghosted across my ear, sending shivers down my spine. I could feel the heat radiating from my neck all the way to my ears. She leaned closer, her voice a seductive whisper. Or is it that your resolve is already leaning in my direction? Her teasing left me flustered and rigid. "You're not my wife?" I stammered. "This isn't right." The words had barely left my mouth when I felt something soft and warm press against my lips. It was a brief, light touch, like the flutter of a butterfly's wings, and then it was gone. My brain short-circuited. She whispered in my ear again, her voice laced with triumphant amusement. "I am your destiny. For all you know, I was your wife in a past life." My mind went blank, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. A second later, she laughed again, her tone shifting back to playful mischief. "You're so easy to fluster. It's fine, you can look. I'm fully dressed." Hesitantly, I cracked one eye open. The sight that greeted me stole my breath. She was, technically, wearing her white tunic, but it was completely soaked, clinging to her body like a second skin and revealing every graceful curve. Her dark, wet hair was spread across her shoulders, with a few strands clinging to her pale cheeks and neck. Water droplets traced paths from the tips of her hair over her collarbones and disappeared into the neckline of her tunic. Her long, slender legs were visible as tantalizing shadows beneath the drenched fabric. The phrase "wet t-shirt contest" exploded in my brain. A rush of blood went straight to my head, and my nose started to feel warm. I quickly slammed my eyes shut again, chanting "not to shout, not covet" under my breath. Her delighted, musical laughter filled the small bathroom. Okay, I'll stop teasing you." Then I felt a light, playful kick from a bare foot on my backside. "Get out, I need to change." Granted a pardon, I scrambled out of the bathroom like my life depended on it. The door clicked shut behind me. I leaned against the cool wall, gasping for air, my heart still trying to beat its way out of my chest. She wasn't a mystic. She was a siren. And one of these days, she was going to be the death of me. After the bathroom incident, I was sick for a few days. Nothing serious. Just a simple case of my blood pressure skyrocketing from being relentlessly teased. For her part, Serafina toned it down. She made me cooling herbal teas every day and watched me with a look that was part apology, part barely concealed amusement. The unspoken tension between us had been stretched to its breaking point, and she was the one holding the scissors. All that was left was for this creature of the material world to finally take the hint. One afternoon, I was sulking on the couch sipping my tea when my phone rang. It was my old college class president. "Leo, my man, you free this Saturday? We're getting the old gang together for a class reunion. You gotta be there." I groaned. "I don't know, man. I'm pretty busy." "Come on, don't be like that," he insisted. "It's been years. Everyone's coming. Jessica Thorne is one of the organizers, actually. She specifically asked if you were coming." The name Jessica Thorne made my hand tighten around my phone. Jessica, my ex-girlfriend. We dated for 3 years in college. After graduation, she decided I was too poor and had no future. So she promptly dumped me for Chadwick Preston, a trust fund kid from our department. Her parting words had been brutal. "Leo, you're a nice guy, but I'm not going to spend my life in a crappy rental eating takeout with you. Chad can buy me the latest designer bags and take me to Michelin star restaurants. Can you do that?" I hadn't been able to say a word, just stood there feeling the sting of humiliation. After that, I'd avoided all contact with my old college friends. And now she was asking about me? She just wanted to parade her rich new boyfriend in front of me, to rub my face in how pathetic my life was and prove to everyone that she'd made the right choice. I had no desire to be the star of her little victory lap. Seriously, I can't make it. You guys have fun. I hung up, annoyed, and tossed my phone onto the couch cushions. Serafina seemed to materialize beside me, holding a plate of sliced fruit. "What troubles you?" she asked, her voice calm as she set the plate down. I sighed and told her the whole pathetic story about Jessica and the reunion. When I finished, she raised a delicate eyebrow. "This is an unresolved thread from your past, a karmic loose end." She looked at me, her eyes clear and direct. "If you don't confront it, it will continue to disrupt your energy. You should go. I'll go with you." I hesitated. "If you come, they'll just talk." Back then, Jessica had done a great job of painting me as cheap and unambitious to all her friends, showing up with a girlfriend dressed like a mystic from a cult. I couldn't even imagine the things they would say. Serafina's gaze was steady, holding a power that defied argument. "With me by your side, who would dare to speak ill of you?" She paused, her tone shifting. "Were you ashamed to be seen with me?" Her words hit me like a dart. I recoiled, immediately defensive. "What? No, of course not. You're 100, 1,000 times better than any of them." I looked at her serene, classically beautiful face, and then pictured Jessica's, with its perfect makeup and calculating eyes. A surge of anger and defiance rose in me. Why should I hide from her like a loser? I took a deep breath and clenched my jaw. "Fine, let's go. Let's show those judgmental assholes that my new girlfriend is a goddamn goddess." A slow, satisfied smile spread across Serafina's face. It was so stunning, it made me forget how to breathe. The reunion was in a private room at some ridiculously expensive downtown hotel. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Serafina was in her usual white tunic, her face free of makeup, her long hair pulled back with a simple wooden pin. As she stepped into the room behind me, the loud, boisterous chatter died for a split second. Every eye in the room landed on her. I saw a mix of reactions: awe, curiosity, confusion, and condescending amusement. Her natural, otherworldly elegance completely outshone every other woman in the room, with their designer dresses and expensive perfumes. A small flicker of pride ignited in my chest. Before I could savor it, a sharp voice cut through the room. "Well, look what the cat dragged in. Leo Vance. I can't believe you actually showed up." Jessica Thorne, clinging to the arm of a slick-haired guy who had to be Chadwick Preston, sauntered over. She was wearing a tight red designer dress and a diamond necklace, so bright it was practically a safety hazard. She looked Serafina up and down, her eyes filled with undisguised contempt and jealousy. Then she let out a loud, theatrical laugh. "Leo, it's been a few years, but your taste has gotten really weird." She gestured dramatically at Serafina, addressing the whole room. "Where'd you find this one? Did you get lost on your way to a Renaissance fair? Is cosplay your thing now?" The room erupted in laughter. A few of the sycophants started whispering, pointing at Serafina. "Is she really wearing costume? That's so bizarre. Look at Leo, he still looks like he's broke. I guess that's the best he can do." My face burned with shame, the blood rushing to my ears. My fists were clenched so tight my nails were digging into my palms. All I wanted was to grab Serafina and get the hell out of there. But as I moved to leave, Jessica blocked our path. She tilted her chin up like a preening peacock, tightening her grip on Chad's arm and looking at me with the triumphant smirk of a winner. "Dumping you is the best decision I ever made." She pointed a finger at my face, her voice dripping with scorn. "Just look at you. No car, no house, no ambition. The only girlfriend you can get is some crystal-clutching weirdo from the sticks. You two are perfect for each other." Chad wrapped an arm around her waist, a smug, mocking look on his face. "Jess, baby, don't waste your breath on a loser like him. He's not worth your time." Humiliation, anger, helplessness. It all washed over me in a suffocating wave. I felt like I'd been stripped naked and thrown into a pit for everyone to laugh at. I glanced at Serafina. She remained perfectly calm, as if this whole scene was nothing more than a dull play she was being forced to watch. But I felt like it was my failure, my weakness, that I couldn't even protect the woman I was with. I snapped. I stepped forward and slapped my ex-girlfriend across the face. "You got a lot of nerve," I snarled. "We broke up years ago, and you're still running your mouth. I wouldn't let my own mother talk to me like that, and you sure as hell don't get a pass." After the slap, there was no point in staying. I grabbed Serafina's wrist, my voice shaking with rage. "Let's go." But Serafina placed her other hand over mine, stopping me. Her touch was steady and cool, and it sent a strange wave of calm through me. She shook her head gently, her eyes still clear and untroubled. Then, she slowly raised her other hand. I saw the simple wooden bead bracelet she always wore suddenly make a soft snap. The string had broken. 7 as the string broke, a dozen dark wooden beads scattered across the plush carpet. The sudden, quiet sound silenced the room. Everyone's attention, including Jessica's, who was still cradling her red cheek, was drawn to the floor. Serafina showed no alarm. She bent down gracefully and picked up a single bead that had rolled near her foot. She held the smooth, round bead between her thumb and forefinger, rubbing it gently. Then, she slowly lifted her head. For the first time, her serene eyes were filled with a chilling, razor-sharp light. Her gaze cut through the room like a pair of unsheathed swords and landed on Jessica, who was smugly holding a glass of red wine. Jessica flinched under her stare and snapped defensively. "What are you looking at, you freak? You're both crazy. He hits people, and you dress like you escaped a cult." Serafina said nothing. She simply raised her hand, and with a flick of her thumb, sent the bead flying. The movement was so casual, so effortless. It was like she was flicking away a piece of lint. The dark wooden bead shot through the air with an audible whiz. It was too fast for anyone to even register. The next second, crack, a sharp, explosive sound echoed through the room. The expensive crystal wine glass in Jessica's hand shattered into 1,000 pieces. The red wine had already been spilled when I slapped her, but shards of glass flew everywhere, showering her designer dress. "Ah!" Jessica let out a piercing scream. The room fell into a dead, shocked silence. Everyone stared, dumbfounded by the impossible event. Chadwick's face turned a furious shade of purple. He slammed his hand on the table and shot to his feet. He pointed a shaking finger at me, his eyes bulging. "You're dead. You hear me? Nobody touches my girl." A few of his cronies immediately moved to surround us, cracking their knuckles and sneering. I instinctively stepped in front of Serafina, my heart pounding in my chest. But Serafina gently pushed me aside and stood tall. She looked at the enraged Chadwick, her voice quiet but carrying a chilling weight that reached every corner of the room. "Your third eye is clouded. A dark energy surrounds you. You are heading for a painful encounter tonight." Chadwick looked at her as if she'd just told the funniest joke in the world. He took a menacing step forward. "Cut the mystical bullshit. I'm about to show you both what a painful encounter really is." He roared and lunged toward me, his fist raised. But as he took that step, his expensive leather shoe landed squarely on a round champagne bottle that had rolled under the table. His body went rigid, and he lost all balance, toppling forward like a felled tree. There was a sickening dull thud. His head had connected, hard, with the sharp marble corner of the adjacent dining table. Blood immediately began to well from a gash on his temple. The world went silent again. The only sounds in the room were Chad's gurgling moans as he lay on the floor and Jessica's high-pitched, hysterical shrieks. Every one of our former classmates was now staring at Serafina, their expressions of mockery replaced with raw, primal fear. I stood there, watching the scene unfold, my mind a complete blank. The tidal wave of shame for moments before was washed away by a tsunami of shock, followed by the most deeply satisfying sense of vindication I had ever felt. I looked at the calm, white-clad figure standing before me and realized for the first time, my girlfriend might not be from around here. On the drive home, I was at the wheel of my beat-up old sedan, but I felt like I was cruising in a Ferrari. I was exhilarated, ecstatic, vindicated. Every few seconds, I'd glance over at Serafina in the passenger seat, my mind filled with a new sense of awe and reverence. She was incredible. The scene at the hotel replayed in my head on a loop, shattering a glass with a flick of a bead, predicting Chad's fall. It was more impressive than any Hollywood special effect. "How did you do that?" I finally asked, unable to contain my curiosity any longer. She was leaning back against the headrest with her eyes closed, looking a little drained. She didn't even open her eyes to answer. A minor channeling of kinetic energy. Trivial. The casual confidence of that line was a 10 out of 10. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then she opened her eyes and turned to look at me. There was a strange, unreadable glint in their cool depths. I defended your honor. Are you happy? I nodded enthusiastically, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Happy? I'm ecstatic. You should have seen their faces. They looked like they'd just seen a ghost. I was so caught up in my excitement that I didn't notice the odd shift in her expression. As I finished speaking, her smile faded, replaced by a somber look. We should hurry home, she said quietly. She paused, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I've just foreseen that I will be facing a painful encounter tonight. A rock dropped in my stomach, and a bucket of ice water washed over the thrill of victory. My elation vanished, replaced by a surge of panic. What? I slammed on the brakes, pulling the car over to the side of the road. Do you have enemies? Is it Chad? Did you piss off someone at the sanctuary? We should go to the police right now. I babbled, my mind racing. She had put on that display for my sake, and now she was in danger. A vindictive rich kid like Chad would definitely retaliate. But she just shook her head, a strange calmness on her face. Then, she slowly ran her tongue over her bottom lip. It was a mesmerizing, almost predatory gesture. Her eyes seemed to glow in the dim light of the car, and the intensity of her gaze made the hair on my arms stand up. No, this is not a trial the police can resolve. I had no idea what she was talking about, but a deep sense of foreboding settled over me. I drove the rest of the way home at top speed. The moment we were inside, I turned to demand an explanation, but she was already behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist in a tight embrace. I heard the click of the deadbolt. She had locked the door. Before I could react, she spun me around and pushed me hard. I stumbled backward and fell onto the bed in my small studio apartment. I lay there, stunned, looking up at her. From the wide sleeve of her tunic, she produced a length of dark green silk cord I had never seen before. Before I could even speak, she moved with practiced speed, expertly tying my wrists together. Her movements were so fluid, so efficient. It was as if she had done this 1,000 times before. I was completely dumbfounded. I struggled against the cord, my voice cracking. Serafina, what are you doing? Are you crazy? She leaned over me, her long, dark hair cascading down, brushing against my face and neck. Her face was inches from mine, her breath warm on my skin. The serene calm in her eyes was gone, replaced by a blazing fire I had never seen before. Her voice was husky, laced with a thrilling, dangerous allure. Don't be afraid. I told you. Tonight, I have a trial to face. She traced a finger over my lips, then trailed it down my chest until it rested over my heart. And you, Leo Vance. You are my trial. It's time for me to transcend. The next second, her warm, demanding lips crashed down on mine. My mind went completely white with a deafening buzz, and I lost the ability to think entirely. 9. That night was a fever dream. It started with me panicking and struggling, then shifted to a resigned surrender, and finally, an enthusiastic participation. My rational mind was systematically dismantled and consumed by her. As we moved together, she whispered fragments of her story to me. She told me she'd been raised at the sanctuary, a spiritual retreat on a remote mountain, and was considered a prodigy. She told me her mentor had sent her into the world to face her karmic trial of the material plane. To achieve true enlightenment, she had to experience the full spectrum of human emotions: love, hate, jealousy, joy, and then release them, severing her final ties to the world. She said she had navigated all the other tests, but the final, most difficult one, the trial of carnal union, remained. My visions showed me that my final test was tied to a man with your name. She breathed against my skin. You were the first man named Leo, the first met after I came down from the mountain. It had to be you, Leo. My mind was a chaotic mess, caught between the overwhelming sensory pleasure she was giving me and the mystical, unbelievable things she was saying. She was nothing like the cool, detached woman I knew. She was passionate, fierce, almost wild. Once this trial is complete, she murmured, my spirit will be unburdened. I can return to the sanctuary and my path to ascension will be clear. I don't know when it ended. I just know that when I awoke from a state of profound exhaustion and even more profound satisfaction, the morning sun was streaming through the window. A single beam of light illuminated her face, casting a golden glow on her pale skin. She was curled up in my arms like a contented cat, sleeping peacefully. Her long eyelashes cast soft shadows on her cheeks. The feral energy of the night was gone, replaced once again by the serene aura of an untouchable goddess. My heart swelled with a sense of rightness and a love so powerful it almost hurt. This was my woman, a goddess and a demon, all in one. I couldn't resist. I gently brushed the hair from her face and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Looking down at her perfect, sleeping face, I spoke in a voice filled with a sincerity I had never felt before. Soha, marry me. As the words left my lips, her eyelashes fluttered. She opened her eyes. In an instant, the sleepy warmth vanished, replaced by her usual cool detachment. She gently pushed me away and sat up, pulling her white tunic on with a fluid, practiced motion. With her back to me, she spoke, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. No, my trial is complete. It is time for me to leave. My heart plummeted into a cold, dark abyss. I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. What are you talking about? I pushed myself up, my eyes fixed on her cold, rigid back. Your trial is complete? So you just used me, and now you're going to kick me to the curb. She turned to face me, her expression terrifyingly calm. Our connection was a matter of karmic necessity. The necessity has passed, so the connection is severed. The path to enlightenment is one of detachment. There was no using involved. Detachment? I laughed, a bitter, angry sound. What about last night? You were the one who started it. You tied me up, and now you're going to feed me some line about detachment? I scrambled off the bed and grabbed her by the shoulders, my emotions spiraling out of control. Serafina, what was I to you? Just some tool. She frowned, pulling away from my grip. Do not be profane. We fought. It was ugly. I called her a cold-hearted, manipulative liar. She just looked at me with those unervingly calm eyes, repeating phrases like the material plane is an illusion, and my path is clear now. During the argument, she finished dressing, straightening the folds of her tunic. She gave me one last long look. Her expression was complex, filled with something I couldn't decipher. Then, without another word, she turned, opened the door, and walked out. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, staring at the empty doorway. I thought she was just angry, that she needed to cool off and would be back soon. I thought it was just a normal fight, the kind all couples have. I never imagined that when she walked out that door, she would be gone for good. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. I sent texts. They went unanswered. She had vanished from my life as completely as a drop of rain in the ocean. Then the first day after Serafina left, I was furious. She was a user, a player, and I was better off without her. Good riddance. The second day, I started to miss her. The apartment felt cavernous and silent. There was no serene figure meditating on the balcony, no faint scent of sandalwood in the air. The silence was suffocating. The third day, panic set in. I found the little ritual wand she'd left on the balcony. I opened the fridge and saw the kale and tofu she'd bought, the food I'd complained about so much. A hollow ache opened up in my chest. I finally admitted it to myself. Somewhere along the way, I had fallen completely and hopelessly in love with her. Regret washed over me. I shouldn't have fought with her. I shouldn't have said those awful things. I had driven her away. A week later, I made a decision that everyone I knew would call insane. I walked into my manager's office and handed him my resignation. My coworkers were shocked. I'd worked my ass off to get that promotion, and I was just walking away. I didn't offer any explanations. I just packed up my desk and left. Back in my apartment, I pulled out the old shoebox from under my bed where I kept my life savings. I opened my laptop and bought a one-way ticket to Sedona, Arizona. I had no idea where her sanctuary was, only that she was a mystic from the mountains. But there were countless spiritual retreats and communities all over the country. I had no idea where to even start looking. So I chose the most famous one. I would go to the places people like her went, and I would ask every single person I met. It was a stupid, desperate plan. I stayed in Sedona for 2 weeks. I carried a photo of her I'd secretly taken on my phone and showed it to everyone. Excuse me, have you seen this woman? The various gurus, healers, and spiritual guides would look at the ethereal woman in the photo, then at the haggard, unshaven man in front of them, and simply shake their heads. She has a powerful energy, but she is not from our community. From Sedona, I went to Mount Shasta in California. I heard it was another major spiritual hub. Maybe she was there, but it was the same story. No one had seen her. In my search, I met all kinds of spiritual people. Some seemed genuinely enlightened, living simple, peaceful lives. Others looked like they were just clocking in for their shift at the cosmic factory. The more I saw of her world, the more I understood it, and the more painful the distance between us felt. She was seeking some higher, intangible truth. I was just a regular guy, obsessed with rent payments and 401ks. We were from different universes. A month went by. My money was almost gone. I lost at least 15 pounds, and I still had no clue where she was. I was completely defeated. I sat on a rock overlooking the vast, empty landscape, the sky a brilliant, indifferent blue. A feeling of utter desolation washed over me. Maybe she was right. Maybe she really had severed her connection to the material world and returned to her path. And I was just a stepping stone she'd use along the way, now forgotten. I told myself it was over. It was just a crazy, beautiful dream. I'd had a weird, extended vacation. The dream was over. It was time to go home. I bought a bus ticket back and, with a heavy heart, began the long journey home. 11, I stood in front of my familiar apartment building, dragging my suitcase behind me. I'd been gone for over a month. Nothing here had changed, but I felt like a different person. I let out a bitter laugh and looked up at my apartment window, and then I froze. There, in the familiar entryway of the building, in the very spot where I always check my mail, a lone figure was huddled. She was curled into a ball, her arms wrapped around her knees, her head buried. It was the same simple white tunic, the same dark hair, held up by a wooden pin. Her shoulders were shaking slightly. She looked like a lost, abandoned kitten. It was her, the woman I had crossed the country for, the woman I had given up on finding. My heart stopped, then restarted with a painful thud as blood rushed to my head. I dropped my suitcase and ran. She heard my footsteps and slowly looked up. Her eyes, usually so calm and clear, were red and puffy from crying. She saw me, and her expression went from shock to disbelief. Then, tears welled up and began streaming down her face. The sight of her crying broke my heart into a million pieces. Before I could say anything, she shot to her feet and slammed a fist into my chest. It was a weak, soft punch. "You jerk," she sobbed, her voice thick with tears. "Where did you go? I came back for you, and you were gone. You abandoned me." I was stunned by the force of her grief, and even more stunned by her words. I immediately pulled her into my arms, holding her as tightly as I could, terrified that she might disappear again. "No, I never abandoned you," I said, my words tumbling out in a rush. "I was looking for you. I went to Sedona, then to Mount Shasta. I didn't know where to find you." She stiffened in my arms. Then she began to cry even harder, releasing a month's worth of pain and fear into my shoulder. "You idiot. I'm from a sanctuary. In the Blue Ridge Mountains," she wailed. She sobbed against my chest, her story coming out in broken pieces. I went back to my mentor to report that my trial was complete, but he said my spirit was in turmoil, that my ties to the world were stronger than ever. He said I failed. He said our path doesn't require celibacy. He said I had to come back down the mountain and resolve my attachments for good. I held her, listening to her story, my own heart aching with a mixture of sorrow and overwhelming joy. She couldn't leave me either. She cried for a while longer, then pulled back, looking up at me with her red-rimmed eyes. And then she did that thing. She ran her tongue over her lips, tasting the salt from her own tears. A familiar, wicked little smile played on her lips. "Well, since I can't seem to achieve spiritual enlightenment, I guess I'll have to settle for enlightenment of the heart." My mentor kicked me out. He said, "You're my destiny, Leo. You can't escape me, even if you run to the ends of the earth." She looked at me, her eyes shining. Looking at her beautiful, tear-streaked, smiling face, I couldn't hold back any longer. I lowered my head and kissed her hard. After a long moment, we broke apart. I looked at her, my heart overflowing with a love so immense it felt like it might burst. I reached into my pocket and pulled something out. It was a cheap, silly-looking ring I'd bought from a gas station gift shop on a bus ride home. A ridiculous little souvenir. I'd bought it just to have something to remember her by. I never thought I'd actually get to use it. I dropped to one knee, holding up the cheap, glittering ring, My voice trembled with emotion. Seraphina, my mystic, my goddess, my future wife, will you marry me for real this time? She stared at me, then at the ridiculous ring, and a startled laugh escaped her lips. She laughed and cried at the same time. She held out her hand and nodded vigorously, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, first we get married. She paused, licked her lips, and gave me that wicked smile again. And then we can work on our own divine creation. Married life was blissfully normal, with a touch of the supernatural. To provide for my future half-divine offspring, I didn't go back to my old soul-crushing job. Instead, I used my college degree and the contacts I'd made over the years to open my own small graphic design studio. Seraphina became my secret weapon. She wasn't interested in the day-to-day business, but she was my in-house spiritual consultant. She'd tell me which potential clients had a discordant aura and should be avoided, or which direction was my financial power flow axis, and that all our monitors should face that way. And you know what? It worked. The business was thriving. One night, to land a huge new account, I had a schmooze. I took the client, a loud, overbearing guy, from a steak dinner to a VIP lounge at a sports bar. Finally, he suggested we go for a relaxing foot massage at a high-end reflexologist spa. I hated every second of it, but the contract was massive, so I gritted my teeth and went along. Thankfully, it was completely legitimate. By the time I was done, it was past midnight, but I had the signed contract in my briefcase. I stood outside the spa, enjoying the cool night air, and let out a triumphant sigh. Yes, that's the baby's college fund, right there. The words were barely out of my mouth when a familiar, excruciating pain shot through my earlobe. Ow! I yelped. Seraphina had appeared silently behind me. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, looking like a normal person, and was smiling sweetly while twisting my ear. In her other hand, she was holding a bag of my favorite late-night takeout, spicy crawfish. Getting bold, aren't we, Leo Vance? She said, her smile not reaching her eyes. She gave my ear another twist. I'm at home, purifying my spirit and meditating to help you build up good business karma. And you're out. Getting your feet rubbed. I winced, frantically trying to placate her. Honey, I'm sorry. Let go, you're gonna rip it off. It was for work. I swear, it was a totally non-spiritual experience. More boring than your kale salad. An idea sparked in my desperate brain. Besides, I said quickly, reflexology. It's a path to wellness, right? It's a path. See? I was just trying to follow in your footsteps. I'm on a spiritual journey, too. My ridiculous excuse made her laugh. The icy glare in her eyes thawed, and she finally let go of my ear. I gratefully rubbed the throbbing cartilage. She slipped an arm around my neck, pulling me close until our faces were inches apart. She licked her lips, her eyes sparkling with dangerous mischief. You're a smooth talker, and since you're so eager to go on a spiritual journey, her voice dropped to a low, warm whisper that sent shivers down my spine. That plan we had about being celibate for 2 weeks to, prepare the vessel for a high-energy baby, that's canceled. Tonight, we start our journey. My face went pale. I remembered the sheer force of her karmic trial, and my knees went weak. I held up my hands in surrender. Whoa, babe. I thought we were saving up our energy for a one-shot, one-kill kind of deal. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, her breath warm and ticklish. I'm worried a certain someone who is so eager for a journey might not be able to wait that long. I laughed nervously and wrapped my arms around her waist, pulling her into a tight hug. Yeah, you know me too well. My goddess wife always knows what's best. She just hummed in agreement, snuggling against my chest. A gentle breeze drifted by, carrying the spicy aroma of the crawfish and the faint, familiar scent of sandalwood from her hair. I held my mystic wife in my arms and thought to myself that this material world, this human life, was pretty damn beautiful.